Hello everyone, once again, my name is Kafaya. I'm a community learning specialist at Do Space and I will be facilitating this Do Space After School Kid Coded session for today. So, just going based off of what we've been working on for the past 3 weeks, this is our fourth week. We have been working with Scratch, and if you're not familiar, Scratch is a block-based visual programming language website that's targeted primarily at kids who are just getting introduced to the world of programming, and this is a great way to get started um, with building games or activities. And one thing that I particularly like about Scratch is the fact that you get to build your games, save them, and then you can share them with your friends, and you guys can collaborate and build off of each other's games, which is very cool, right? Okay, so just a quick recap to give you guys a refresher on what we've done for the past 3 sessions. The first game that we built on Scratch was the ball bounce game, and how it worked was that we named our variable score, we set it, and we added that every time that we click on the ball, we wanted to get 1 point. And after doing that, so every time that we clicked on the ball, we got a score of 1, and the more you click, the more your score goes up. And we also set a high score, which we added that if you got to the high score, you would get a congratulatory screen like this one right here, and it would tell you that you're a winner. So we learned to name and set variables, and we also learned to switch backdrops. And then in the second week, we moved on to catching apples. So we built the catch the apple game where we set the ball to work with our mouse. So every time I move my mouse anywhere on the screen, as long as the game is started, my ball would move, and it was able to catch the apple that fell from random positions on the screen. And then, which takes us to last week, where we used the line tool. For the first two games, we kind of used some of the backdrops that Scratch had, but for last week's game, which was building our maze, we let our creativity shine through by building our own maze using the line tool in Scratch to design our own maze. And then we built the maze marking a starting point and a finish point, and the finish point was the purpose of the game was to get through the maze without was to get through the maze and get to the blue box. And once we touch the blue box, we set the program in a way that it would disappear. That's fun. Okay, which brings us to our activity for today. What we have planned for today is the brick break game. That's a tongue twister. This game is built using some of the blocks that we previously worked with, and we will be using more sprites for this game. As you can see from the screen, it looks like we have a lot going on. Yes, we do. And in addition to that, we would be exploring more of the if and then blocks, because previously we've only ever used our forever loop and our if block, but now we're giving it an added level in the condition where if this doesn't happen, then do this, or if this doesn't happen, do this or else. You'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. And an upside to this game is that we're going to be doing a lot of math, but I'm happy to let you guys know that I'm here to guide you through every step as we go along. So the point of this game, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with how the brick break game works, but we don't want the ball to touch the red line. We want the ball to move from side to side using the paddle as a guide. So once our ball touches the paddle, it bounces off and goes on to hit the bricks. Yes. So to get started, I want you all to go log on to your Scratch account. So let's all go to scratch.mit.edu and log into your account so that you don't lose all the work that you do. Because when you log into your account, you're able to save all the games that we build, and that way it's easier to share. And I'm very confident in you guys, and I know you're gonna go on to build a million more games. So this is a good way to be able to refer back to your game. It's by making sure it is saved and giving it a name. So once you're logged on to your profile, you can click on create like I have right here. And once you click on create, it should bring you to a page that looks just like this. First things first, we're going to go ahead and right there at the top where it says Untitled, I'm going to go ahead and name my game the Brick Break game. So let's all do that. So brick, break game. That's exciting. And once you're done typing the name of your game, you can just click away from there and it automatically saves that name. And of course, something that we always do because we don't need our cat for this game, we're going to say bye-bye to the cat sprite and we'll see you later. And all you have to do is delete that later. Right. So a good majority of the brick break game is built using blocks that we've already used in our previous games, like I earlier mentioned. And in addition to that, we would be using a different if then block or if else block. The point of this game, to remind you guys, is to stop the ball from touching the red line. If the ball touches the red line, that's the end. So we are going to need quite a couple of sprites for this game, so let's get that out of the way and get on with selecting the various sprites that we are going to need. So all we've done so far is to go ahead and first of all log into our Scratch account and then click on create to start a new game, and we're going to name that game the Brick Break game. And then we're going to say bye-bye to the Scratch cat because we do not need the cat for today's activity. And now we're going to go ahead and add the sprites that we need for our activity today. So go right here to this sprite icon, and when you click on that, it should take you to the gallery of amazing sprites that Scratch has. And of course we're going to go ahead and select the ball, which is the first very important sprite. Up next, we're going to go pick our paddle, which you can either scroll down to look for your paddle, or you can just take the easier route and type in your search bar. Just type paddle. Awesome, I didn't even have to type the entire thing. You can already see this is the exact paddle that we want. Just gonna bring that to the bottom of the game. And I'm sure you guys can see that my ball is quite big. And this is too big for the game that we want. This is too big. So I'm going to reduce the size by half. And half of 100 is 50. So I'm going to go ahead and change the size of my ball to 50. That way it's small enough. Perfect. And now we're going to go ahead and add our different bricks to the... We're going to select our different bricks. I'm going to add them to what we have so far. So go back to choose a sprite. And you don't have to scroll too far, just right here You see the thing that says button 3? That's exactly what we need for this game. So I'm going to click on my button 3. And for the purpose of this game, I need 5 buttons for 5 bricks. So I'm going to go ahead and select 4 more of these bricks. So I'm going to go back and 1, 2, and 3, and one more, 4. And now I have all my 5 bricks from my game, and I'm going to go ahead and move them to the top of my page, to the top of the screen, and just set them right next to each other in a very orderly manner. Yes. Slowly but surely, our game looks like it is coming together visually, but something else is missing, right? I mean, I'm guessing we can go ahead with our game like this, but we need something else to help us set the theme for the game, right? You guys agree? So for that, I think we need a backdrop, right? Because that helps create an illusion or set the mood for what our game should look like. So to do that, you guys know the routine. We're going to go in here to choose a backdrop. And then this is where I'm going to let you guys explore and exercise your creative freedom and choose whichever backdrop suits you. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and choose my neon tunnel because I think it best fits the look of the game that I'm trying to create. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my neon tunnel, and this is what it looks like. So this is what everyone should have so far. You should have your 5 buttons at the top of the screen. You should have one ball sprite that you reduced to half of the size, and then one paddle. But something else is missing. We need the red line at the bottom of our backdrop, right? So I'm going to go in here, select on my backdrop, and go to the second label. Right under the Scratch logo, you see code, backdrops, and sound. Make sure you're clicking on the backdrop, and then go in here where it says backdrops. We're going to customize the backdrop so that it has the red line at the bottom. And in order to do that, a fast and efficient way to do that is to select this rectangle tool right here and go into your backdrop, select the rectangle tool, go here to your backdrop, and then click and drag. Oops. See? I'm going to make it a bit bigger. Yes, right here. And of course we want it to be red, so I'm going to go ahead and change the color to red. Yes, that's perfect. So now everything looks as it should. So let's go back here. So this is what everyone should have so far. If you're working with me, this is what your game should look like so far. I know nothing is functioning now because we haven't programmed anything to happen, but we know that we have all the tools that we need, all the visual tools that we need to make our game a good one, right? Awesome. So let's get to it. I think the easiest thing and the fastest thing that we can code or add code to is our paddle. Remember last week, to navigate through the maze, we used the arrows, so we're going to use the same method to tell our paddle what to do today. So first of all, don't forget to click on your paddle. Whatever you see at the top right corner of your workspace right here, that is where you're putting your code. So you want to make sure the right thing is reflected right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into my events tab and use this block that says when my left arrow key is pressed, and do the same thing for my right arrow. So when my left arrow and my right arrow keys are pressed, I want my paddle to move left and right. So in order to move left, I'm going to go into my motion tab and select this block that says move 10 steps, but 10 steps is telling it to move forward and left is backwards. So I'm going to click on here and change this to -10. So I'm going to go back here, select the same block for my right arrow. So we can go ahead and test that out right now. See, I'm clicking on my left arrow key and see my paddle is moving left. Let me make that big. My paddle is moving left. And now I'm clicking on my right arrow key and my paddle is moving to the right. This is perfect. This is working exactly how I want it to. So that is awesome, right? Give yourself a thumbs up. We have successfully added code to our paddle and our paddle is working great. So the next thing that we want to add some code to is our buttons, right? So remember how this game works is every time that the ball touches the button or the block at the top of the screen, we want it to disappear, right? So we want to create the illusion that the ball is breaking the brick and is making it disappear. And in order to do that, I'm going to select on my first button and go into my controls tab or my events tab, and when my green flag is clicked, I want my all my bricks to show, right? So because the disappearance or the breaking of the brick is going to be a repetitive process, so every time that, and for a repetitive process we need our forever loop that's gonna encompass it. So forever, I want you to, if my ball, so I'm going into my sensing tab, if touching ball, click, drag that and put it right here. So if my ball is touching my button, what do I want to happen? I want it to disappear. And we don't have the disappear block, but we can make do with hide. So if my ball is touching my button, the block, I want the block to hide. So it's going to disappear. So we're unable to test this now because we haven't added any code to our ball, but just keep it in mind. And what we're going to go ahead and do is to use this exact same code that we have here. We're going to add it to every other block that we have because it's a repetitive process. It's the same idea for every block. So I'm going to click. This is how you copy and paste in Scratch. You click on everything and bring it right to the block, to the sprite that you want it to work for. So now this is me clicking on my button 3, and as you can see, the code is there. Same thing for button 2, which is where I just copied all of the code, and as you can see, it's successfully copied. So I'm going to go ahead, and I want you guys to do the same, is click, drag and copy everything to all the buttons that you have. But if you choose to, maybe since we just have how many blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 blocks, if you want to do it over and over again, if you think you're fast enough, so to do that like the manual process, that's totally fine. But just make sure that all the blocks have the right kind of code on them. So I'm going to go ahead and add this to my button 4, and I'll do the same thing for button 5, and I'll do the same thing for button 6. So now all my bricks are programmed to disappear every time that the ball touches them. See? So 3, 2, 4, 5, 6 all have their code, which is exciting. Oops, what happened here? We're halfway done. Something is missing here. And that is, it's a good thing that we cross-checked. So when my green flag is clicked, is missing here. So I'm just going to tap it. And awesome. A good way to check if it's working is every time I click on the green flag that the code is supposed to perform the function that I've set it for, you can see that it's all highlighted. That's to show that it's working. If there's no other way to test it, that's to show that. So let me just check again that all my blocks, all my sprites have the code, the right kind of code on them. All my sprites have the right kind of code on them. All my sprites have the right kind of code on them. Awesome. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to catch up, and we can go ahead to adding some code to our ball, which seems to be the most tedious of all of the sprites, but it's okay. We're here to help each other out, so I'm sure we'll figure it out together. Okay, so let's take a few seconds so everyone can finish up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's go ahead to working on our ball. So first of all, I want us all to click on the ball, and as you can see, my ball is right here in the corner. So that's how I'm sure that I'm adding my code to the right sprite. So how we want to start our game is that every time I press on my spacebar, I want my ball to bounce off. That's like the launching sign. That's how you launch your ball. It's by clicking on the space key. And in order to do that, I'm going to go in here and drag this block and use the drop down menu to select space. So when the space key is pressed, right, I want my ball to bounce off to different parts. Just bounce, just go up. So for that, I would use the motions tab to set a location. So I want it to go to X at -16. Let's just give it a random value, right? So -24, and my Y would be 65. So that way, my Y would be 65. And then I also want my ball to point towards my paddle, right? Because remember, the paddle is like the home of our ball. So I'm going to go find a block that would help me do that. And this one that says point towards has the drop down menu, so I can point it towards my paddle, and that is perfect. And now I'm going to go into my control tab and use my forever loop, because this of course is a repetitive process, and I want my ball to move up 10 steps. And if my ball is touching either sides of the edge, I want it to bounce back. So if on edge, bounce. Perfect block, right? So if you guys go ahead and test your code at this point, you would see that our bricks are disappearing, which is good. It means our code is working. Now, I want us to think, while you guys work, let's discuss about what we think should happen to the rest of the game. Like, this all looks good now, but our game isn't complete, right? If the ball touches the paddle, he needs to immediately start heading towards not just 0 degree upwards, but it can continue to move up by 10 steps, right? And also remember that when it comes to directions for our sprites, everything to the right is positive and everything to our left is negative, number-wise. And according to the first image, and according to our direction, if you remember um, from our previous games when we used directions and we saw those images, there's different points that the arrows face. And now we want to make sure that our sprite mimics those angles and bounces off in like three directions between 0, 180 and negative 180, right? So to do that, I'm going to go grab my if block. So if and else. Remember I talked about this at the beginning of this session? Right. So if my ball is touching my paddle, I'm going into my sensing tab. If touching paddle, right here. If my ball is touching my paddle, then I want it to point in the direction. Point in direction. Where is my direction block? Okay. Point in direction. I don't want it to just be one direction. I want it to be three different ways that our ball can go. So I'm going to go in here. And in my operators tab, I'm going to look for this block that divides values. So I'm going to go back to my motions tab, and whichever direction that the ball is coming from, I want to divide it by 3. See? And that is going to give us a random direction. It's not a definite direction because that wouldn't make the game fun, right? We want it to come from random positions every time. So point in direction and divide the direction by 3, so it moves in 3 possible ways: left, right, or up, right? Cool. And we want it to point in that direction and then move up 10 steps. Awesome. So let's read the story that we have so far. When my spacebar is clicked, my ball is going to bounce off and point towards the paddle, and then in a repetitive motion, like over and over and over again in a repetitive motion, I want it to keep moving, and for movement, we ask it to move 10 steps. And if our ball touches the edge of our screen in any way, I want it to bounce. And if our ball is touching the paddle, we want it to divide the set direction that it came from by 3 and go in a random position, either left, right, or up. Those are the 3. And we also want it to move 10 steps. Move 10 steps is added so that the ball goes forward for motion, right? So now that we have our story up to that point, what is the point of our red line? If you guys remember, we set our red line so that our ball knows what not to do. So that way, else, if our ball touches the red line, that is, if it falls to the bottom, then it will stop completely. For this, that's why we have the if and else loop. But for the inside the else, we're also going to give it another condition that if our ball touches the red, so I'm going to go back to my control tab, and if my ball, we're going to go into the sensing tab. So if our ball is touching the color, and to get the exact color that we have for our backdrop, I'm going to use the color picker tool right here. that would enable me select the exact shade of red that is right here. Let me show you what I did again. Right here at the bottom, with my color picker tool, I will select, and then I will choose the exact shade of red that I want that's on my screen. And then if my ball touches the color red, I want the game to stop. And in order to do that, I'm going to go to my controls tab and select the block that stops. Select the block that stops the entire game. So if touching color red, then stop this script, right? And now this group is going to go to my else tab. And I believe this is the end of our game, right? Now we have everything set. We can go ahead and test out our game. When I click on my green flag and I press my space bar, and as you can see, my ball bounces off. You see, that's exactly what we wanted. So let me make that full screen so you can see what I'm talking about clearly. So I click on my green flag and I press my space bar, and as you can see, my ball bounces, and every time that my ball touches any of the blocks, it disappears. But whenever my ball touches the red line, my game stops, which means that is the end of the game, right? So, I have a challenge for you guys. Just something that was a repetitive process for every game that we built in the past 4 weeks. So what I want you guys to do is that every time that my ball touches the red line, which basically ends my game, I want you guys to tell your program to switch the backdrop to a screen that says you lost. Is that something you guys think that you can do? It's very exciting. Like, that's a good way to practice and to check on yourself to be sure that you learned, at least you learned something over the past few weeks. So I'm excited to see how you guys figure that part out. But I'm going to leave this up for a few more minutes. So if you have any questions regarding the code, if maybe your code isn't working like ours is, let me know, right? So when the space key is pressed, we want our ball to bounce off after we press the space key. And if it's touching the paddle or if it's touching the edges, it will bounce off of the screen. It will bounce. But if our ball is touching the red bar at the bottom of our screen, that is the end of the game, and that stops the script from running. So the script is the entire game. And that's basically all that we have for today. Oops. See, I moved my paddle, but it wasn't right there to receive my ball to bounce off when my ball got to that point, so my game ended. As you can see, now it bounces off, but not, my paddle isn't there for it to receive and bounce off again. So yeah, that is all that I have for you guys today. That was very exciting. Let me know if you have any questions in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Other than that, I would be happy to have any questions that you maybe have after this session. Feel free to send us an email at hello@dospace.org. My name is Kafaya, and it's been fun learning with you guys today, and I look forward to getting your emails about the fun games that you built and the amazing things that you do on Scratch. So please feel free to contact us at hello@dospace.org. And if you're interested in more classes that we have to offer, please check out our website at dospace.org. And on our calendar, we have a different list of all the classes and sessions and activities that we offer you guys here at DoSpace. So thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you guys next time. Have a wonderful week. Bye.